And joining us now to discuss the Biden probes and the president's here in review, we have Congressman Jeff Van Drew from the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Always, thank you.
So I'm thinking that saying as a response to Republican investigations, the White House saying we're going to try and stall without complying with valid subpoenas is maybe not the most compelling counterargument, but I guess you're probably expecting a lot of stonewalling this year.
Oh, there's going to be stonewalling, but we just have to keep going at it and going at it and going at it, because you know what? The American people deserve the truth. And if there was nothing to worry about, they wouldn't be stonewalling. They would just open everything up and say, okay, take a look at it and tell me what you see there. But we know that there are relationships between the vice president when he was vice president and now President Biden and other countries, including China, possibly Ukraine, possibly other countries as well. Financial interactions took place with Hunter and him. He was the big guy. There's a lot of stuff that went on, and there is so much we need to learn, not only about that issue and Hunter Biden, but about really what is going on with Dr. Fauci, what did go on with Dr. Fauci, what has happened with, you know, the World Health Organization lying to us, what has China did when they lied to us about COVID, and they just can go all the way down the line on issue after issue. What happened in Twitter? Why was it that conservatives were treated differently with their freedom of speech on Twitter than other folks?
Democrats no question.
Differently than Republicans.
And a lot of issues that were ignored by a lot of people in my industry. Joe Concha from the Hill is joining us now. Joe, I want to get your reaction, and also from you, Congressman. This is White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain reviewing the alleged achievements of the Biden year.
Okay. It's been a big year for us at the Biden-Harris White House. President Biden delivered on his promise to get things done in Washington. He got over 250 bills passed. They lowered prescription drug costs. They lowered health care premiums. They brought down your energy costs. They reformed gun laws for the first time in 30 years. We've made in America not just a slogan, but a reality. A record number of manufacturing jobs, over 750,000 new manufacturing jobs right here in the USA.
It is a good job market. It was a good job market when the president was inaugurated. When he was inaugurated, we had a high growth, low inflation economy. Lately, we've had a slow growth, a low growth, high inflation economy. Joe, what does this mean as you assess the Biden year that's been?
Well, James, apparently in Ron Klain's world, quantity is better than quality. In other words, oh, we passed 250 bills. Oh, we lowered your energy costs. Well, that's funny, because I just got my heating bill from the past month, and I am certain that my energy costs haven't gone down. And I know that when this president took office, gas was at $2.30 a gallon. It's still above $3 at this point. 23% believe that it was only a good year for the country, while 2/3 believe it was a bad year. So the perception doesn't match Mr. Klain's or Mr. Biden's reality, because when you look at this again, 2022 inflation for the most part above 8%, and we have the White House twerking over this because it's come down a little bit, even though it was 1.4% when this president took office. Crime has gone out of control in cities like Philadelphia, which set a homicide record, Portland, which set a homicide record, Minneapolis, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, not good situations there, and you're seeing the exoduses happening from states like California, New York, and Illinois to places like Florida and Texas. So when you look at the overall report card here, when you look at the border especially, and when you look at education, where our kids are falling further behind the Chinas and even the Estonias of the world, you can't give this president a good report card when it comes to looking at 2022 in aggregate, no matter how many bills have been passed.
Okay, I got to speak up for Estonia, but also, Congressman, I'm with Joe, and I think probably a lot of your constituents, that the measure of success for you and your colleagues should not be the number of bills you pass, the number of burdens you put on the American people. But I want to ask you specifically about the economic burden, or how Washington has added to it this year. I've been kind of clinging to this hope that the tax hikes were not as big as they might have been during the Biden first 2 years. In other words, that 2017 Trump tax reform, I think, is largely still intact in terms of a competitive tax system. But I'm looking at this graphic from Americans for Tax Reform. A lot of tax hikes on energy included in that Inflation Reduction Act. and also in the omnibus, some business expensing things. This gets a little nerdy, but I'm wondering, how worried are you that the sum total here is a drag on growth next year?
I'm real worried. He's done so much unbelievable harm already. This is going to hurt even more. Remember where we were, and Joe just, laid it out. I mean, we had a good economy. People that originally were at the lower end of the economy gained the most. Their income went up the most. People were doing well. We had the lowest level of unemployment, and we had real employment, not only based on numbers that were fake, but numbers that were real. We had an economy that really worked. The bottom line is where we are right now. The only thing that this president can get an A in is the number of times he's flown into Delaware, the number of times he's taken a vacation, and the number of ice cream cones he's eaten.
Wow. Joe, all presidents, including this one, seem to want to run for re-election. If he wants to get re-elected, seems like he needs a strong economy. Do you see any signs that maybe the White House is going to work with Mr. Van Drew and the other members of the Republican House and do some pro-growth policy? Any hope there?
Not much hope there at all, James. You remember Bill Clinton and the shellacking that he took in 1994, losing 54 seats in the House. And Clinton had two choices. He could either continue to go to the left or work into the center with Newt Gingrich, who was the House Speaker. And we had this thing called a balanced budget amendment, which is a foreign concept now in government. And also, he worked on welfare reform as far as Clinton was concerned. And Clinton said the era of big government is over. I cannot see this president, this administration pivoting back to the center and working with Republicans, for example, on solving the catastrophe, the humanitarian catastrophe at the border. Because the first two things you have to do is restart wall construction and reinstate Remain in Mexico policy, and that just ain't going to happen. So I just don't have much hope, James.
Can't say I'm optimistic either. Thanks to both of you for joining us.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.